Welcome one and all, it's time for a red hot, spicy, tender, succulent, moist, finger-licking good, dishlicious tournament report. Now, this is the eve of Clash of Kings, the biggest Kings of War tournament of all time, over 150 players I'm led to believe. So, what better way to prepare for that than by playing a totally different game system all day on the Friday, instead of preparing for that tournament? That sounds like a great idea to me because I am a tournament fiend, so when there's a tournament in striking distance, I'm going to do everything I can to be there. Now, this is a kind of a preliminary build-up tournament to another Age of Sigmar event that's taking place at this weekend, which obviously I can't get to because I'm playing in Clash of Kings. And some of the players that are there early enough to participate in this, and some people, like me, just came along for the Friday. So that's why it's called the Primal Primary Pre-Drinks. So, quite a mouthful. And you'll see from the thumbnail that the Lord Celestant on Dracoth makes it into my list this time. So, Stormcast Eternals, again, 2,000 points. Let's get rid of the thumbnail, shall we, for a moment. And so, if we look at this overview of Game 1 while I go through my list. So, let's start with the things that are actually on the table in my list here. So, we've got the Lord Imperatant with the Arcane Tome. So pretty much going to be Mystic Shielding and staying on the table alive to bring in my Annihilators, 7 inches away, 1 unit per turn hopefully. Then we've got 5 Vanquishers who with Call for Aid can be brought back to life by a hero for a command point. We've got, it's not the Lord Relictor this time, controversially, it's the Knight Relictor, giving him a try to see if I actually want to invest in a Knight Relictor model. He's not vastly different from the Lord Relictor. The main difference is the fact that he rerolls, well, if you give him High Priest as well, he's rerollable 3-up to translocate a unit instead of 2-up. So, is it significant? We shall see. He's cheaper though, which allows me to squeeze more stuff into the list. We've also got 3 long strikes, so with Thunderbolt Volley they can shoot once in the hero phase. And we've got the Knight Incanter with Blizzard as a spell, so if she maybe gets translocated later on towards the enemy and then unleashes a blizzard, then she can do a lot of damage. Obviously, to get blizzard off you need primal dice, so I'm going to see how the primal dice fall and then decide when to unleash that. She also gets, of course, 1 unbind, auto unbind per game, which is very useful. Off the table, we've got 4 Tempesters as a unit, so very, very scary thing to drop out the sky, firing a lot of shots at you. We've got 2 Fulminators, who are also very scary. We've got 2 lots of 3 Annihilators, and we've got the Lord Celestant on Dracoth, and I've given him the mount trait. Let me just see what it's called. Envoy of Lightning, so that means when he lands, he can do mortal wounds to nearby units, very much like the Annihilators. It's just not quite as good as the Annihilator one, because he can't land as close, and also it's on a 4-up instead of a 3-up. So it's not quite as good as the Annihilator's landing, but it's still extra mortal wounds splash when he comes down. And I've given him the glaive so that he hits pretty much just like a Fulminator, except slightly better because his mount has 1 more attack than their mounts have. So he's like a slightly better version of a Fulminator on his own. So we'll see how he does today. We have got someone in the chat. You're going to have to let me know how to pronounce your name, or I could just guess. How about... It's got to be Josaker or Hosaker, perhaps? You'll have to let me know. And whoever is watching this live, feel free to comment along if you spot anything. And I'm going to try to keep this under an hour, because I have got Clash of Kings tomorrow to prepare for, so we shall see whether I manage that. Anything else relevant to my list? Yes. So it's Hammers of Sigmar, so that's why I've got all these Dracoths as battle line, these 2 units, and I've also got the Vanquishers as battle line. My grand strategy is Overshadow, so keep my battle line alive and kill the enemy battle line. Importantly, if I bring my Vanquishers back to life with Call for Aid, that unit that comes in will not count as part of my starting army, so they don't count for that grand strategy. So it has to be their first incarnation that lives, if they're the unit that's the difference, and kill all the enemy battle line. My Triumph is Inspired, so I'll get a +1 to wound, and I'm 1980 points, so I might get my Triumph sometimes. Anything else that needs to be mentioned in here? I don't think so. I think I've touched on everything there. So, let's have a look at my opponent's list. Just opening up the BCP app, which is where all the cool kids hang out now. So, Has it really just logged me out? No, it hasn't. I just had to refresh the page. There we go. So, opening up the Soul Blight list from game 1. And actually, you know what? It's not there. Because, yeah, there was a little issue with the app earlier. So it's actually got the spare players list in here instead. So I can tell you roughly what's in this Soul Blight list. There is a Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon. There is 2 units of Black Knights. 2 lots of 5. There are 20 skeletons, I think. There are... there are 20, I think, Grave Guard that are off the table, so they're going to be coming up through a grave site at some point. There is a vampire on foot, and there is a White King on a steed there. There is also this Neferata right here. So 2 big, horrible, flying vampire monsters. Now, what I learned from last time playing against these was that you don't want to spread damage out because they're going to get wounds back when they attack you. So you really need to focus fire and bring down one at a time, especially if you're in combat, because they will get those wounds back very easily. So I've got my long strikes within 30 inches of these Black Knights, so if I'm made to go first, that'll be my initial target. My plan here is to not chip away at the big stuff, because they'll charge me and get the wounds back anyway. So I'm going to try and kill outright these knights. Now, they can be brought back to life on a 3+, but they come back at half strength, and then after that they can't come back again. So I'm going to try and get rid of the knights early, because I think they're a big threat on the charge. The Grave Guard would be a big threat, but they're not on the table right now. I think one of the spellcasters has the Hoarfrost spell, which could be very powerful to use on skeletons, perhaps. And then when I get chance, I'm going to try and drop the Annihilators in and focus heavily and try and get rid of a Zombie Dragon or Neferata in one go. The Tempesters will be useful for that as well, because they can drop in, do 1 billion shots, and then Annihilators to finish them off. That's the plan anyway. And we're playing the Geomantic Pulse. So, to start the second round, whoever's going second picks one of these points, A or B, and that's where the pulse begins. It then pulses its way each round down to the opposite side of the table, and you get extra points if you're holding the pulse, and extra points if you're holding the objectives next to the pulse. So, in round 2, you can start to score more points. Round 1, you can barely score any. Round 3 and 4, you can score lots of points because the pulse is here and here. So you have 2 adjacent objectives that are worth more points to you. So round 3 and 4 are the big scoring turns, and then round 5, you're back to just decent scoring again. So, quite an interesting scenario. And I think we had the same number of drops, actually. I've got 5 drops because I decided to take Battle Regiment for 1 drop and Warlord Battalion. So I've got the extra enhancement, that's why I've got the 2 Holy Commands. And yeah, so 5 drops. My opponent was also 5, but my opponent won the roll, so it is going to get the choice of going first. So obviously off the table I've got anything that gets any kind of bonus from being off and dropping down. So the Annihilators get lots of bonuses from dropping in, and the Lord Celestant does splash mortal wound damage. Fulminators and the Tempesters are really... it's not necessary to start them in the sky in this matchup, but I feel like it anyway. The long strikes, if there's enemy shooting that can hit them, obviously they don't want to start on the table, but for this game there's not much to threaten them. So, the only shooting attack I think is on the Zombie Dragon. Okay, so, into turn 1. And my opponent actually gives me the first turn. So I choose to use Magical Dominance, so the Knight Incanter just Mystic Shields up the long strikes, and there's a battle tactic, because no enemy casters are in range to unbind it. So giving me the first turn, is it a good idea in this situation? I would normally say it's a good idea to give me the first turn, because my list is an absolute nightmare if it doubles you. Because you're going to have Tempesters landing, doing 1 billion shots, you're going to have Annihilators charging into you. If I then get the double, the Annihilators might have survived after killing something, so they get a free charge after it, basically. They get in a free go at another turn, because they don't expect to live longer than a turn. The Tempesters can shoot again, and then if you charge them in your turn, maybe they can shoot at you 3 times with Unleash Hell before you can do anything back to them. So you don't want to get doubled by me, so giving me the first turn, obviously dependent on the scenario and other factors, depending on your list. But in general, I think I want to set up so my opponent takes the first turn, is how I want it to go. So then I can maybe get the doubles early. So I've Mystic Shielded up my long strikes, and I shoot off the Black Knights. I used Thunderbolt Volley as well, so it took 2 rounds of shooting to get rid of them. So they're dead. They might come back, but at half strength, which will be 3 models, because it rounds up. And I've brought in my Tempesters over here, and I shoot off the other Black Knights. So that was the plan, kill all the Black Knights immediately, and then use the Annihilators, because hopefully the screens are gone, and try and get the Annihilators into the big stuff later on. So there we go, got rid of the Knights. 3 victory points, which is the maximum for round 1. So I hold an objective and I got my battle tactic. In round 2 is when you can start scoring bigger. So round 2 for my opponent. And Zombie Dragon is making a beeline for the Tempesters, who might be able to do some good damage to it with Unleash Hell. We'll see. And my opponent also picks Magical Dominance. And so there you go. Not much happens in that turn. They dip their toe onto an objective. A spell is successfully cast, I think, so the battle tactic does go off. The Vampire Lord does go into the Tempesters. I don't kill him utterly with Unleash Hell. He manages to kill 2, and then they do some wounds back as well. So I'm satisfied with that as an opening, because the Zombie Dragon is wounded, and I've got the Knights mostly dead, but you can see 3 have come back at that gravesite now. So if I kill those again, they're done for the game. They can't come back again. So 3 points each after round 1, and my opponent is getting the second turn priority though, and chooses to take it to get the double. Now, is that wise? Let's see. I'm not sure, you know, because the Tempesters were already locked in combat anyway with the Zombie Dragon, so you might be able to kill them, but then I might get a double turn then after that. So yeah, it's a tough one, because if I go, what's going to happen? Tempesters will carry on shooting the Zombie Dragon, Annihilators will drop in down here, charge it, it's dead. Then I might get doubled, so I'm probably not going to bring in 2 units of Annihilators. And multiple charges, I might go after the Black Knights perhaps, with Fulminators or something. So I might be able to get a decent amount done, but I'm not too disappointed in this, because this lot isn't really a threat to the rest of my army, and most of it's off the table at the moment anyway. So it's not the worst time to be doubled. It also means I get to pick which side the pulse starts on. So, where would you start the pulse in this situation? I choose to start it over here with the Tempesters, because I don't want all these skeletons to just go right onto the pulse, because there's 20 of them, and I don't fancy my chances of killing that many skeletons with anything really. And then these big guys are worth quite a few on the objectives as well. I don't want to have to chew through a load of skeletons to get the objectives. And this one, this grave site, it's going to be difficult to land anyone on it from the grave, because I've got the Tempesters here, and I've also got the, I think it's the Lord Imperator I've got behind this building. So it's going to be difficult for them to physically land with the positioning of some of my other units. So they're not going to be able to drop down right on the objective, whereas they can jump straight onto this one very easily. So I'm going to make them fight through my Tempesters to try and get to the big scoring area. So my opponent goes for Intimidate the Invaders, which is get more units out of your own territory than within, and bring some Black Knights up on this objective here. So see, they could have just done that and taken the pulse then, and it would have been tricky for me to chew through everything that's on this side of the table to get to it. So I want it to start here, and then as I kill things, hopefully, it works its way down, and I'll have started to chew through things by the time it gets to this end. So the Tempesters are dead, which is it a good trade. They've done some damage to the Zombie Dragon, they tied it up for 2 turns, and they killed some Black Knights. It's not too bad. Is it worth their points? Maybe not, but if he dies immediately and then I get another turn after that, who knows? So, going into my turn, we have got... Oh yeah, there we go. That was just the models being pushed into position because they hadn't been fully moved, and then we just nudged them into the position they were actually supposed to be in for the battle tactic. So 4 points there, which isn't the maximum because of course my opponent didn't get to the pulse this turn. Chose to kill the Tempesters with the Zombie Dragon rather than retreating with the Zombie Dragon onto the pulse and then using another unit to take this. So they do hold one adjacent to the pulse, so you get a bonus point for that. hence the 4 points. So I am going to go for surround and destroy. So I have to get my units, 3 of them, to different table edges, 2 of them wholly outside my territory. So I drop down the fulminators over here, next to the Black Knights, and I think I shoot one of them off immediately with their lightning breath. Over here you can see the zombie dragon is dead. We got the annihilators in there and whomped it to bits, and only losing 1. The vanquishers have moved forward, and the long strikes I think have come down as well. Oh, actually they were down already, weren't they? So they were here and they just did some shooting. So they did some wounds somewhere. And the Knight Relictor teleports himself over there to complete the battle tactic into the top right corner. So I've got 3 units on the edges of the table. Who are the other ones? I think the long strikes moved backwards a bit to this edge. And who else did I pick? The long strikes. The fulminators weren't... Did I already bring the fulminators on? No, I didn't, did I? So who did I choose? The long strikes, the Relictor, and who else? I can't remember which unit it was, because you have to have 3 different units on a table edge, and there doesn't seem to be a picture capturing it. So I am not 100% sure, because you can see that this guy is here. So it doesn't look like he went to do it. So yeah, I'm not sure. Because I'm sure these guys were already on the table, so they weren't eligible. But it's scored, even though the photos aren't very helpful here. And I get the double. So very nice. So the fulminators finish off that unit. They failed their charge last turn, by the way. That's why they have to finish them now. My next batch, or the 2 annihilators there actually, because they didn't die, they're then able to make a charge in here, and I've killed off some more of the Black Knights, kill all those, and I've got my Lord Celestant there. And oh, that's who it was. So it was the Lord Imperatant. So he's been hanging out down here. So he did an auto run up out of my territory over there. So he's the unit that scored in the previous round. Just lost track of him because there was no photo of him because he's not doing anything exciting. So I've killed a decent number of stuff. The Graveguard aren't on the table yet, which is scary, but we've killed all the Black Knights and they can no longer come back. By the way, my opponent's grand strategy is to bring 3 units back to life from the grave, so there's 2 already. Mine is to kill the battle line, so I need to kill the skeletons now. So another big score. And which battle tactic did I choose this time? Intimidate the invaders, so more of my units outside my territory than within. So my opponent into turn 3, who's got some ground to make up now in the scoring, goes for reprisal. So obviously this unit of annihilators killed the general, so my opponent would very much like to kill them and score a battle tactic. You can see they're already taking wounds, and the White King charges in there. Skeletons into the vanquishers, and Neferata into the Lord Celestant on Dracoth. The annihilators you can see are dead, so there's a battle tactic succeeded with. And not much else dies here. Celestant, Neferata don't die by the looks of it, and the Graveguard have come in here. So they can't come in on this objective because I've got the Lord Imperatant there and the Lord Celestant here. So they had to land in this spot. It was a very weird shape because they have to be within range of the gravesite as well. So it was like this sort of shape. It was just outside the objective. So my opponent does take the pulse, I think, because this guy is worth more than the Lord Celestant. And has this one as well, which is adjacent to a pulse, so there will be some bonus points dished out there, so 6 points. The maximum you can get in round 3 is 7 if you hold both of the points next to the pulse. So a good round scoring there for my opponent, and priority, and my opponent gets the double this time, so it goes for bait the trap, so retreat with 2 units and charge with 2 different units. So if the Graveguard make a charge, that would work, as long as another unit does as well. So there's the White King who can make a charge. It just means Neferata has to retreat, which you might not want to do ordinarily, and the skeletons have to retreat, which, again, you might not be too crazy about doing, but it's fine. So you would have to make those 2 charges though. So is this the right move, going all in for that battle tactic and getting 2 of your units out of combat in the hope that you'll then charge 2 of them in? Because the Graveguard are very slow and the Lord Imperator can redeploy away. So on average, they may not actually make a charge after him. So they could go after the Lord Celestant, move closer to the Lord Celestant, and then at that point Neferata could move away, so I can't redeploy, I think. Oh, I don't know actually. How far can Neferata move? Could she move more than 9 inches away to not set the redeploy off? Perhaps. I don't know with the amount of wounds she's taken whether her speed goes down or not. So, trap is being baited, and you can see the Lord Imperator redeploys as far away as he can from the graveyard that have just popped up last turn, and the skeletons get out of combat as well. So the White King would like to charge. You'll notice that Neferata has flown away as well. Oh, where did she go? Yeah, she went over there. So, the Graveguard do not succeed with their charge, and the White King goes and kills the Lord Celestant. So, failed battle tactic, but the Lord Celestant is dead, and the Graveguard are out in no man's land. So, 4 points for that round, because my opponent did not succeed with a battle tactic. Turn 4 for me, so I go with Led into the Maelstrom, so charge a hero and a battle line unit in, and one of them has to still be in combat at the end of the round. So, I look at this situation here, and I think it's very likely that if I charge the Vanquishers into the Skeletons, they will not wipe me out, and I will not wipe them out. So, very good chance that they'll still be in combat at the end. I've also got the Fulminators who are battle line, they could charge into something as well. I need to charge in a hero, so the Lord Imperator can charge into the Graveguard, because even if he dies, the Vanquishers are probably still going to be in combat. The Fulminators are going to make their way over here, and then they're going to attempt, if they could get into range to charge Neferata, that would be good, because they could charge this unit, and if they get a chance to pile in and get into range to hit Neferata, I would definitely take that. Because you also avoid the monstrous actions by doing that as well, and any Unleash Hells. So if you can reach an enemy via piling in from a different unit. Remember, you can't pile away from the closest model, I think. So it's tricky, but if you're touching a model like here, it's not difficult to pile in that way a bit. So you'll notice that I do wipe out this unit, and the reason, because the Fulminators charge them as well. The reason is because I'm very confident that the Lord Imperator isn't going to get killed by them, because he makes the charge into them, but he's kind of hanging in front of them, so they're not all going to be able to fight him anyway, because the pile-in's only so big, and I put all that defense on him, so I'm confident he was going to live, so I thought, it's okay, I can destroy the skeletons now, because he's going to be alive still. And that's how it looks, so I think I've shot a bit more damage onto Neferata. And, oh, actually, there's one thing I forgot to mention, because they never appeared in the picture. I think some Annihilators earlier on got themselves killed foolishly against Neferata. Let me wind back. So, I think it goes down as a mistake, because I think I had some Annihilators up here. And I think it was the Vampire Lord they charged into, killed it with the impact hits, and then did their pile-in towards Neferata. Which was a bad idea, because Neferata was then able to get wounds back by eating them. Obviously, if they do 1,000,000 wounds to her, then it doesn't matter, but they didn't do particularly well, and I think at least one of them couldn't reach her anyway, so she ended up getting more wounds back out of it and killing the Annihilators earlier. So that's where the other Annihilators went. They foolishly got themselves killed. So, scoring for my round. Oh yeah, I get the next turn as well in round 5. Have I even got... I don't think I've got my picture of the victory points there. But I think I get next crack at the next round. I don't know, what's going on here? Because the skeletons are gone. So I must have gone next then, in the next round. Yes. Okay, so the reason I've got a picture of all these dice, this is out of sequence because I took a picture because it was so wild. So I think there's another picture coming up of the dice though. So into my 4 there, I did get maximum points, almost. because I didn't get the extra one for holding both of the adjacent pulse objectives. On to turn 5, and I get the double turn. So, Magical Mayhem, kill a unit with a spell. So, there's not many battle tactics I can do at this point. So, I want to kill, let's see, the White King with Blizzard. So, translocate over there, Blizzard the White King, and kill it. Unfortunately, I don't get a high enough roll. I don't think we get any primals, so I just failed to cast it. So, it was worth a try because my battle tactics are running short now. And then I only score 3 for the round, because I don't get my battle tactic. So all those 1s there, the Fulminators charged into Neferata, and they just rolled a billion 1s and 2s to hit and wound. And they just failed to do anything miserably. On the attack, I think it's -1 to hit, possibly on Neferata, so they were on 3s and 3s on everything. And they just rolled endless 1s and 2s and barely did anything at all, which was quite amusing. So, actually it was 4 points I scored there. So which ones do I hold? I do hold this one, in fact, because these guys are worth 2 each. That is worth 1. And do I hold this one? In round 4, did I hold this one? I held this one. Yeah, that was adjacent to a pulse as well. So I held one adjacent to a pulse, which is worth 1 more, because I've got 2 people on here. And there's only 1 there. Yes, okay, that's right. Yeah. So I got 4 points actually for that round, and then round 5, I scored... Round 4 I got 6. Round 4 I got 4. 5 I got 4 points. Okay, getting confused because there were some out of sequence pictures there. So that's where I got 4 points. Round 5, yeah, because I held this middle one previously because I had more Vanquishers in there. They're dead now, mostly. So round 5 for my opponent, and Magical Mayhem, kill a unit with a spell and tries to kill that Vanquisher on 1 wound with a spell. So that's pretty easy to do. And the Graveguard just spread out between the 2 objectives. And so the Vanquisher is dead. I don't know if a spell actually killed it though. So my opponent scores 4 in that round. So holds 1, 2, 3, and 1 for holding the pulse adjacent objective. So yeah, 4 points. The battle tactic fails because the Vanquisher did not get killed by a spell. It got killed by other means. So I still have battle line units alive, my opponent does not. So I get my grand strategy, my opponent doesn't. And I can't remember what it was now anyway. So that is a win, just. So it's a very tiny win. So quite pleased with that. And I think it goes down as an 11-9 on the old 20-0 system. But the way this tournament is scored, it goes by wins first. And then if you're tied on number of wins, then it goes down to the differential. So, a very close game there. On to the next round. No reward without risk. So in this one, there are 5 objectives. And any wizards that die explode. Possibly. But I don't know if we actually remembered to do that. We might have forgotten about it. But anyway, I'm up against the ogres. So this list should be in here. So let's have a look at this list. Pulling up the list now. So it is the Boulder Head and Grand Strategy Slaughter of Sorcery. So all the wizards on the table have to die. I've got 2 and there's a Butcher as well there. So all 3 of them have to die for the Grand Strategy to succeed. There is a Huskard on Thunder Tusk with Keening Gale Prayer, which I think is the +3 to movement prayer. And that one is, the Thunder Tusk is this one, which is a giant turtle. The other 3 are Stonehorns. So that one is the general as well up there. So that one, I think that one might be -1 to wound, or -1 to hit in combat. One of them is -1 to hit, and one of them is -1 to wound, I think. But one of those is only from shooting. Something like that. There are minuses on 2 of them. I think it's this one and one of the others. I'm not sure which one. There's a Frostlord on Stonehorn which is 460 points of meaty goodness, which I think... What is it? I don't know. I can't remember. So if my opponent watches this, I know he did actually watch a previous live stream, so he'll be able to tell you which one is which here. I should have made a note of it somewhere, really. There is a tyrant somewhere around there. Is it that one, maybe? Oh no, he's here, the tyrant. Yes, that's just a hero. Pretty good at fighting. The butcher with some spells. He's got the Hoarfrost spell. There are 6 ogre gluttons over there, which are standard ogre infantry. And 2 Stonehorn Beast Riders, which are the 2 of these that aren't as good. They're separate, they're not in one unit. So all the Stonehorns have vultures, which, length of the table, just do a mortal wound on a 2+. So that is the kind of thing that you don't want targeting long strikes. So I'm not going to be starting them on the table, you'll be surprised to know, because they don't want to get vultured to death in turn 1. So, what's my plan here? Well, the wizard's exploding, you can't really factor that into your strategy too much. So, off the table I've got the Annihilators, Lord Celestant, the Tempesters and the Long Strikes, because they have to, because otherwise they'll get shot. And on the table I've got the Fulminators, the Imperatant, the Knight Relictor, the Knight Incanter and the Vanquishers. So, also, it was decreed by the tournament organiser that you have to be 9 inches from enemy territory on this mission. So that's what those sticks were measuring out. And obviously I'm not setting up near the enemy because that would be crazy. The main thing that concerns me is the fact that the Stonehorns can jump. When they charge in, one of them can use a monstrous rampage and jump 3d6 over the unit they charged into something else, which is a good way of bypassing Unleash Hell. My plan is to try and kill one of these things every turn with shooting and Annihilators. So if I can accomplish that and not take too many losses on the way, that would be nice. So I'm going to basically try and kill whichever ones are most accessible to me. I've also got the potential of Blizzard being cast with her if she gets translocated, because I've put her in translocate range. The Knight Relictor is just out of camera shot there, so she can be translocated and blizzarded if I get a turn with lots of primal dice. So, the ogres choose to go first, which is what I like to see, but it's going to be very tough to take them off the objectives, because the big ones are worth 10, and these guys are all worth 2. So, they are going to score, and it's going to take a while for me to stop them scoring. I think that one might be the expensive one. So the 2 good ones might be the ones back there. This one's the general, and that's the really tough, expensive one, I think. And I think these 2 are the cruddy ones. They're not quite as exciting ones. So they are going to score points. And the battle tactic was Magical Dominance, so just stay out of Unbind range and do a spell. Easy enough. So 5 points. What am I going to do now? Well, I'm going to set up and try to get shooting and charges in on both of these. Because I've got impact hits with Annihilators on the charge, I've got long strikes that will be able to shoot when they drop in. I've got Tempesters that will be able to shoot when they drop in. So if I can do a good number of wounds to both of them before the charge phase, I'd be feeling quite good. Otherwise I'm going to focus on one, because I don't want to get punched in the face. Because it's only turn 1, the Annihilators don't necessarily have to come in. So I go for Surround and Destroy, so pick 3 friendly units and put them on table edges. So obviously I can pick Lord Imperatant, that's why he's deployed up here, so he can just hop into enemy territory. Or hop out of my territory, should I say, and hold this edge. The Vanquishers can hold this edge, and then the Relictor can translocate himself, potentially, if I don't get enough to cast the spell. Or he can translocate the Knight Incanter over here or over here, and then try and blizzard one of these heroes, perhaps, because I want to be touching this edge to score. Could also translocate up there, and maybe blizzard on this guy, if I get the dice for it. But otherwise I probably wouldn't want to be there, because then these guys can just kill me while still being near an objective. I'd rather be over here and get one of these heroes to run off, possibly. So, here we go. The Tempesters are in. The Annihilators made the charge. The Fulminators did some shooting. And we've killed both of those Beast Riders. I think those are the 2 that I killed, the 2 cheaper ones. So, I did loads of shooting, but the long strikes are over there. So they shot at this one. The Fulminators shot at this one. The Tempesters and the Lord Celestant shot at this one. The Annihilators then charged in, put their impact hits to finish off one of them, then attacked and finished off another, and I think they only took a couple of wounds maybe from a stomp beforehand. So really good start, killed 2 of the big, scary, bad monsters, and I'm in a really good position now if I can just keep chipping away from there. And feeling pretty good. So if I can get the double now, I would say this is pretty close to game over, because I'm definitely going to kill one of these. The Annihilators will charge that one, I'll pile in a load of shooting into it, and if I kill another one in the next turn, that's probably going to be it. You can see the Knight Incanter did get teleported over there, but I didn't have enough dice for a Blizzard, so she's just over there, because she might be able to survive being attacked by one of them if I don't get the double. And even if I do get doubled, she's got 1 turn to do an unbind with her auto unbind still before she gets charged. So, good start. And I only score 4 though, because I don't take all the objectives off them. Let's see. So I've got that one and that one. But I don't think I hold this one, because of the positioning of the... Let's have a look. So the position they ended up in, I think this guy might be outside. So I've got 3 guys actually in there. Oh, actually those are worth 2 anyway. So yes, so I don't hold these 3. So I just hold the 2. Hence the 4 points for a battle tactic as well. So my opponent does get the next, or the first crack at round 2. So no double. And goes for Intimidate the Invaders. It's probably lucky because it would have been a very short game if I'd got the double turn here, with everything descending on this lot. So my opponent is going to be able to strike back. So units wholly outside zone territory, more outside than in. Setting up charges on the Annihilators. Obviously what they want to do is charge the Annihilators and then fly off with the big 3d6 big monstrous action, and then maybe hit the Tempesters, because you can't have Unleash Hell on you then, because it's not a charge move. And these Gluttons would like to charge the Fulminators. The Fulminators have reversed away 2 inches with the redeploy, so maybe they'll fail it. And the Tyrant kills the Knight Incanter. The Gluttons do make it into the Fulminators, which is sad obviously. And this guy makes it into the Annihilators, and both of them do. So with the big fly move, he couldn't actually get all the way down here, because he only rolled a 4 on 3d6, I think. So he had to go for the Lord Celestant, but can then pile in towards the Tempesters and put the attacks there in a minute anyway. So some Annihilators have been killed, as you can see from the charge impact hits. And some wounds are done to the Fulminators. And one of them is killed in the end there. And the Annihilator goes back in to this guy and tries to do some wounds. And all the Fulminators are dead. So I think one of them was finished off by an ability after combat. I think it's the end of the round, they can do mortal wounds to you. So the Fulminator died to that. The Tempesters pile in, do a few wounds there. So the Celestant and the Tempesters are hanging in there. It looks like they've lost 1, which is okay. So I could get a double turn now, and I'd like my chances here with 2 turns to shoot this lot. So what am I going to do? I've got all these guys fighting here, so I can bring down the next lot of Annihilators and try and take him out. I can shoot my long strikes at him as well, who are over there somewhere. And I think those are corpses. I think they're going to be removed in a minute, because yeah, the 2 heroes are over here. So I've got my Lord Imperator and long strikes there, so also I'm going to be able to shoot in the hero phase now with the Thunderbolt volley. So very nice. So 5 points for my opponent there, so I'm still playing catch up. So the Vanquishers join in this fight down here from there, so they come and join in. They just want to get more bodies on the objective, really. So I'm not sure if I'm going to kill him. Tempesters don't hit that hard in combat. So the shooting does plenty of wounds. So look at all these skulls for the amount of wounds these units have taken. So lots of damage on the 2 of them, including the Annihilators, but it doesn't look like I kill any of them. So Magical Dominance, so I did cast a spell and didn't have anything unbound, but I'm not taking objectives because these guys are just worth too much on them at the moment. So I'm only holding 1, I think. I'm not sure which one. Am I still holding this one, perhaps? I might be holding the middle one, because I think this guy's putting his strength into here to stop me holding it. So yeah, I think I've just got the 1. Yeah, because if he put his value into this one, then I would have enough in here to hold this one. So either way, I'm going to get 1. So not many points, but in terms of killing, it is looking good. I've done tons of wounds, I've killed some powerful stuff, and I've got some of my important units in a safe position as well. Lord Imperator has run up there as well, as you will see. And I don't know where the Knight Relictor is hiding at the moment. He's not in the shot there. So my opponent goes first in round 3. So again, double here would have been very nice because I would have almost certainly murderized these two. But surround and destroy, so get to the table edges. Tyrant. And so when it comes to fighting and shooting, you'll see that the Tempestors have been murdered. But this guy goes down as well, this big lad here. So yeah, I've lost all my Dracoths now, which means I feel like I'm going to sneeze. I bet you're glad I muted myself there, or that would have been very loud. So the Vanquishers have to stay alive for my battle tactic now. So there's 5 of them all surrounding this big lad, and I've got a turn coming up. So remember, if you're watching this, don't forget to like the video, you fiends. And these guys had to go over here, so instead of charging the Knight Relictor or the Long Strikes, instead of attempting that, they had to go into this area here because they had to score the battle tactic. So there they are, within 6 there. So my opponent scores another 5. And onto my turn, so I go for Intimidate the Invaders, get out my territory basically. And I finish off the other big lad with the Annihilators, steam in there and kill him. So we've got rid of all the big stuff. And the Long Strikes start shooting up these guys here. And they're all dead as well. So 5 points, finally. I'm putting some good points on the board. The Relictor translocated onto this objective. And I have this one. My opponent, I'm not sure, maybe holds that one. Not this one. So I hold more as well, which is why I got 5 there. So it's going to be very tricky for my opponent to score now. Only 2 units left. And it's looking quite healthy, so I've really caught up now, but I'm still behind, but the grand strategy should be in the bag, mostly. I just need to keep these 5 guys alive. And my opponent isn't going to do the grand strategy unless he can kill the Lord Imperator and get the Butcher killed, which seems tricky because they're really far away from the action. So my opponent does get first crack at round 4, though, and is going to send the Tyrant steaming this way and trying to get towards the Vanquishers. Does not want to set up a redeploy, so is staying outside of 9 of the Annihilators, and scores 4 points. So I think he chose the Ogre battle tactic, which is don't be in combat, which obviously isn't very an ogre-ish thing to do, but I would kill to have some Stormcast battle tactics like that. Don't be in combat sounds like a great one. And there we go, so 4 points. So I can start closing the gap if I can get a big score in this round now. I go for Endless Expropriation, which just means that I don't have any battle tactics I can do this round, which is very sad. But the Annihilators do make a charge and kill the Tyrant, and I shoot the Butcher off with the Long Strikes, who I teleported over here. So I'm sitting on objectives and killed everything. So I only score 3 for the round though, but my opponent's going to score nothing probably if I go first in the next round. If I don't, he will actually score points because he's still holding an objective at least with this one. So if I go next, of course I can translocate myself onto it and just score all the points in the world and deny my opponent scoring. So I do get the double turn here. So very important because I'm able to stop my opponent scoring anything in turn 5 by teleporting. Actually, no, those guys could just auto-run onto it, so I didn't even need to teleport. So, yeah, 3 points for that round for me, nothing for my opponent because they're all dead, and then grand strategy because the Vanquishers are still alive and I've killed all the enemy battle line. So it's another win. It is a very close win. Let me just have a look what the score was for that round. So, in round 1, it was, for the differential, it was, or for the 20-0 system, and it was a 13-7 in the first round. So I think I won by like 7 points, something like that. In this round here, I only win by 2 points. So obviously the grand strategy does it. And yeah, without the grand strategy, it would not be a win. So, gave myself a deficit early on because my opponent took the first turn and jumped on all the objectives. And yeah, so if you do give me the first turn in that situation, obviously you can't leap onto the objectives, and I can kind of pin you back in combat with Annihilators, and Tempestors can come down on an objective. So you can still take the objectives off me. So I wouldn't be confident holding on to the objectives. So I'm very happy going second in this situation. Although it was razor close, because I can't take the objectives off the big stuff until I kill it, because they're just worth so much on them. So I'll take that, another win. And there's a picture of the inside of the fridge at the TSN, by the way. TSN Arena in Nottingham. Well stocked. I can't get enough dark berry sugar-free tango. It's my beverage of choice at the moment. So, on to the final game. And because the tournament is scored on wins first, that means that I'm obviously joint top of the table with 2 wins, with somebody else who has 2 wins. In the final round, so whoever wins this game wins the tournament. If it's a draw, I've only had small wins, which means that my opponent would probably win the tournament in the event of a draw. However, if we draw, that means we're guaranteed to finish first and second, because nobody else is on 2 wins. So nobody else could get to 2 wins and a draw. If that makes sense, because I don't think anyone else has a win and a draw, so they wouldn't be able to jump ahead of us. So guaranteed to finish first and second in the event of a draw. So that is really good. I can't argue with that. And quite happy with how this list is performing so far. Next one, every step is forward. So, 4 objectives in kind of this weird position, the weird territory. So you can set up in your own territory along here, but only if you're 9 inches away from the line. So anything with a big base can't be set up in these corners. What am I up against, though? It is the filthy, dirty, disgusting Lumineth. Obviously they're not disgusting, because look at them. They're just nice, pure, and shiny, and sparkly. Elven goodness. So let's have a look at the list. There is no Teclis. I got over my Teclis fear by killing him in the last tournament I was at. So a bit disappointed not to see him here to have another go at killing him. But I'm not disappointed because he's obviously horrendous to deal with. We have got a Cathalar, who is a spellcaster, who is hanging out down here, I think, with the piece of faction terrain. There is a Lore Seeker, who is somewhere. I'm not sure where it is. It'll be in there somewhere, though. So that's another hero. When that has Merciless Blizzard. Oh, there it is. It's off the table. There we go. So that one can set up at the end of deployment and just be 3 inches away from me, which is very good, especially if you've got Blizzard. And it's bound to the Krondspine Incarnate as well. So, teleporting to the enemy, maybe casting Blizzard, and then intentionally getting yourself killed, maybe, so the Krondspine becomes unbound is a possible thing you can do. You can unbind it with a spell as well. Now, there are also a lot of archers. So there are 20 Venari Wardens, which are the Spearmen, which are up there. And then there are 2 lots of 20 Sentinels, which are obviously very powerful. They do mortal wound shooting, which is a nightmare for Stormcast, especially Annihilators charging in. The objectives are not in a great place for me getting ward saves from them either for my subfaction ability. So if I'm charging with the Annihilators, I don't ideally want to be charging the Archers, because they'll probably kill at least 1 before I get there, maybe 2, just with mortal wounds. So that is not an ideal situation. So what I want to do, my plan for dealing with them is Tempestors. So drop down the Tempestors and try and shoot the Archers to death before I try and charge them. And then if I have to send the Annihilators into something, maybe Horses or the Spearmen. That's the plan. So, by the way, we have set up the terrain incorrectly on this table. You're supposed to leave 6 inches between the edge and the terrain, but we've done it wrong. So there's the Krondspine there. Now the Krondspine, obviously you can't kill it in 1 round. It's impossible. Not just really hard, it's actually impossible. You can knock it down a level in 1 round and then try and kill it in the next round. But it's very difficult to deal with. If I get a chance to try and kill it, I will try, but my opponent also has 2 endless spells as well, which the Krondspine can eat if it becomes wild. So it can go up a level every time it does that. So it's unlikely I'll kill it, but if I see a chance, I'm going to try. I've got all my heroes in what I think is a safe position here, hiding from enemy shooting and out of range of the Kronspine, and next to this building, so the Kronspine won't be able to charge them. However, I do learn that the Kronspine can actually charge and land on this building, because we established that it was... What did we say it was? It might have been garrisonable, or I'm not sure what we declared it as, but it was the kind of thing that a flying unit could land on, potentially. And then there's a couple of garrisons here. And that thing is garrisonable as well, which a wizard can garrison and then get bonuses for casting. There's all kinds of bonuses going on, so lots of -1 to hit shenanigans with this army, and lots of bonuses to casting are the main issues. So I'm hiding from the shooting, and we'll see. So the Law Seeker appears down here. Maybe he wants to do Blizzard, but actually chooses not to and goes for Magical Dominance instead. So it doesn't do a Blizzard, because I've still got my Auto Unbind at the moment. And instead casts a spell and doesn't have any Unbound, because the other spellcaster is too far away. So succeeds with the Battle Tactic and casts this, which is, I think this is the Maelstrom, which moves and then it can explode and get you extra... if the Kronspine eats it, you get an extra level by eating it. And when it explodes, it deals damage to units nearby, which the Kronspine doesn't care about because it heals damage at the end of the round anyway, if it hasn't gone down a level. So it's moved over here, and it goes up in its damage output every time things happen near it, so spells within range and so on. But yeah, you can see I've got my Vanquishers up there. I'm not sure if they were in the previous picture. The reason they're so far out is because I want to try and set them up for getting outside of my territory in this direction, which is right into the corner, if they can. I mean, it's going to be tricky, but yeah, they can get beyond this line. So they might be able to do it already with an auto run, so that just gives me more battle tactic options. So these guys, did I even go through these guys in the list actually, this cavalry unit? So they are the Venari Dawn Riders, so they're only 120 points, they're just a bit of a crummy, almost chaff cavalry at that point level. So the Kronspine makes a big run move, and it can run and charge because it's the Kronspine. And I think it may be when it's wild, so I think it becomes wild because of a spell, so it can do that. And yeah, there's not much of a downside to going wild with a Kronspine. You have to make a charge if one is possible, but you still get to move it first, so it's not really wild, is it? It's kind of wild, but you still have control over where to put it, which means it would be in position to charge the enemy and not you. If it was truly wild, then your opponent would probably be able to move it as well, or you wouldn't be able to move it at all, it would just move towards the nearest thing. That would make it actually wild, so it's a little bit wild. It's a little bit untamed. So a bit of shooting goes on down here. So the Kronspine actually ends up landing here, which I didn't think was going to be possible, but as we established, it can actually land half on this terrain, because the gap there isn't big enough for it to land. So with the terrain involved, so obviously these heroes are not as safe as they thought they were. If I thought there was any danger of the Kronspine coming over here, obviously then I wouldn't put all three of my heroes next to each other. Because he needs to be alive for my Annihilators to drop down 7 away. She needs to be alive for Auto Unbind. He needs to be alive for Teleport. So I would definitely spread them out if I thought he would be a threat. So he gets in there and starts eating people. So I do kill the Law... Is it the Law Seeker? Is that his name? I think I forgot another unit as well when I was going through the list. There is... Blade Lords are another unit as well that were in front of the Archers up there, which... Let's see if we've got a picture of them. There they are. 5 Blade Lords. So they can take wounds for heroes. So if they stay near this hero, they can absorb wounds. So the Kronspine starts eating people after I kill the Law person. What's the name of that hero? Law Seeker. So it's dead. But I do lose the Incantor and the Imperatant, which is very sad. So 5 points for my opponent, and I'm down my 2 important heroes. So I might as well just drop everything onto the table now, because I can't be 7 inches away. So let's start dropping things in. Led into the Maelstrom, make a charge with a hero and a battle line unit, and something still has to be in combat at the end of the round. So I'm going to plop the long strikes down. I'm going to charge the Fulminators and the Lord Relictor into the Kronspine. So they do knock it down a level. By doing lots of damage to it. And they're still in combat and haven't died, which means I'm going to succeed with the battle tactic. But also, I've thrown my Annihilators into the Spearmen, and done some good damage there. And the Tempesters landed here and shot those Sentinels almost to death. There's only 4 left in the unit. Obviously they can try and rally, but it's only on 6s. And the Lord Celestant comes in and makes a 9-inch charge into the cavalry, into the Dawn Riders. So dropped down, did some mortal wounds when dropping, and then did all my shooting, killed loads of stuff. So even though I haven't killed as much as I would like, that's a dead pile, by the way. All that stuff's dead. And then the long strikes, I think, shot and did damage to some units over here. And they towed on that objective as well. So I am holding it. So I'm holding... Let's see, I am holding this objective, actually. Yeah, because in this scenario, you get an extra point. You're worth an extra 1 if you charge for objective purposes. And you can't contest objectives if you retreat. That's how this one works. So, the fact that the Lord Celestant charged means that he is actually worth 3, which is more than that unit. And long strikes take this one. Annihilators don't take that one because there's a million elves still on it. And these Annihilators failed their charge because they're 9 inches away, so it's fair enough that one of them fails. And yeah, so I might actually be able to kill the Kronspine. So I've got it down a level, so we're going to have one more turn to try and kill it, and if I don't succeed then it's probably going to eat an endless spell, and it'll be fine. Now, my plan here is to translocate the Relictor, if I get the next turn, because otherwise he's going to get eaten. Let's see if I do get it though, because I only scored 3 points, because... Let's see. 1, 2. So I'm holding 1 and 2, and... I don't think I'm holding this one. So yeah, I'm holding more than my opponent because no one holds this one. That's why I've got 3. 1, 2 and more, but no battle tactic. Because, did I actually pick one? Yeah, so I did. Okay, I remember what happened. So yeah, I did get the battle tactic, but... Yeah, there we go. So it was actually 5, because when we were counting, we forgot that this guy was actually worth 1 more. So yeah, it is 5. 5 in the first round. And I get the double. Extra spicy double turn. So what am I going to do with this double turn? That endless spell, if it moves and then gets eaten by a Kronspine with the monstrous action, it goes up a level. And I would rather try and kill it. So the Knight Relictor is going to teleport himself away. He's going to make himself an unbinder first of all. And then he's going to try and unbind this endless spell. Now it might go off and kill things, but I've got no chance of killing the Kronspine this turn if this thing is still up. So, because it's still active and it can be moved by my opponent to like here and then get eaten. So Kronspine cannot die if this thing is still up, so I have to unbind it. He's going to teleport over there. There's a chance that it could do mortal wounds to the Annihilators and maybe the Fulminator, but it might not. So I think it's worth the chance. These Annihilators are obviously going to be able to get into combat now. I choose... Let's see, surround and destroy. So 3 different units, 3 different table edges, 2 of them outside my territory. So who do I pick to accomplish that with? Oh, well, I'm going to do it with the Tempesters because they can kind of bunch up to 3 of them and then go against this edge. I can do it with the Lord Relictor, who can translocate himself onto this table edge. And then I've got my Vanquishers here, who just need to move up to there, into that corpse pile. So they'll just hang out there to score. So it should be straightforward, unless I fail my 3-up rerollable teleport. So, you'll notice that lots of stuff is dead here. We've actually killed all the Sentinels. So, the Annihilators made it and obviously killed all the Spearmen. The Celestant is down to his last wound, but did kill off the cavalry there. And the Tempesters did loads of shooting and then charged in. I think they're down to 2 of them still alive from a combination of different things that hit them. But they've killed all the Sentinels, apart from, actually I think there's maybe 4 left in this unit. So there's a small unit of Sentinels left, no more Spearmen, and that unit's dead. Which also means all the enemy battle line is dead. So to get my grand strategy, I now just need to keep the Tempesters or the Vanquishers alive. So I score 5 for that round, which is nice. So I've taken this objective now. And the movement trays just haven't been removed yet. And I hold this one. And I still hold this one. Those aren't actual enemies, that's just the dead pile. So, looking good. Into the next round. So, my opponent is going to have to start chasing things. So this endless spell is cast again because I unbound it. Oh, by the way, I don't think I mentioned, when I unbound the spell, it did kill the Fulminator, sadly. So that means I wasn't able to finish off the Kronspine. So it's still on level 1 though, so I don't think it's as powerful at level 1. Or does it get... Kronspine's power level, how does that change? It's still significant. Still good, even at level 1. So, my opponent in round 2 goes for... I can't remember which battle tactic it was. It might be an elf one. Or it might have been kill these guys. Or kill... Which one was it? Either way, there's a spell cast on them, so that they now have to do a bravery test every time they want to charge or move or fight or do anything. That's... Oh no, actually, that puts them on -1 bravery. That spell hasn't been cast yet, getting ahead of myself there. So that spell is yet to be cast, but these nuggets on them just show that they're -1 to their bravery, which obviously synergizes very nicely with that spell, and Stormcast units are only bravery 7, so on average they're not going to be doing much if that spell goes off on them. Bronzespine is moving into the danger zone, so it can go and try and eat this endless spell, perhaps. And that Annihilator is finished off and murdered, and I all-out defense these guys after the Kronspine goes after them. It eats the endless spell, so it's back up to level 2, so I'm definitely not going to kill it now, so I'm just going to leave it alone. And it only does 1 wound, though, which is hilariously bad Kronspine rolling. And 3 points for my opponent, because, let's see, doesn't hold many objectives. That's the problem now, because I've killed so many models. So my opponent does get the double, though, and gets first crack at round 3. If I got first go at this round, I would probably... Oh, I could move these guys out of combat, obviously, to not get instantly killed. Make the Kronspine spend another turn killing them. And... yeah, it would be very interesting. So round 3 for the Lumineths, they're going to go next. So Magical Mayhem. Okay, here's the battle tactic. Kill those 3 Annihilators with a spell. They're trying to do it with Blizzard, I imagine. I turn this guy into an Unbinder, hoping that I can try and stop that if it happens. And the Endless Spell is up again, which is annoying because Kronspine can eat it and go up to level 3 as well. So some of the long strikes are killed when the Endless Spell goes off. And yeah, look at that. So my opponent fails to get Blizzard off on the Annihilators. So failed battle tactic and only 1 objective held. So it's going really well here. And I could get a double now as well, because I'm going into turn 3. So I could get 2 cracks at killing some stuff. What have I got left though? Not much. The Vanquishers, the Lord Celestant, the Annihilators, and the Lord Relictor, who is hiding somewhere. I'm not sure where he is. He might be down here. But he's definitely hiding. So I go for Intimidate the Invaders, get out of my territory, basically. So the Vanquishers do just that, and they set up in the corner. Now, the Vanquishers need to die for my opponent to deny my grand strategy. So I've put them in the corner, and not right into the corner, just here, because then when it moves 3 inches away from them, I've got some wiggle room to redeploy and get a bit of distance between us. If you're right in the corner and it goes 3 inches away from you, you can't redeploy anywhere, so you're stuck. So just giving the Kronspine a more difficult charge by putting in a position where I have got some fallback room. So that's an important thing to consider in this game, actually. Because the enemy have to stop 3 inches away from you, and then you redeploy, and then they can't just carry on moving after that. So you can give them a difficult charge by making sure you've got space to fall back into, rather than just being as far away as possible, because potentially they can still come close to you. So we've got Annihilators into the Archers. And you'll notice the Mage is dead. That's because when the Annihilators got in, they put their impact hits into the Mage and killed it, which is nice. And then we're going to womp the Archers. So the Knight Relictor is hanging out here. So I get another 5-point turn with that battle tactic. From now on, I'm probably not going to be able to score any battle tactics because I don't have any wizards, and a lot of them are magic dependent. So I never got a chance to do any of those because both my wizards were dead immediately at the start of the game before I had a turn. Which obviously was avoidable with deployments, just had I considered that the Kronspine might be able to reach them all. Because I think it even made like an 11-inch charge to get to them in the first turn anyway. So, yeah. My opponent goes first in round 4 and has Reprisal open to him now because I've killed the General. So these Annihilators need to die to get a battle tactic. The Kronspine is chasing after the Vanquishers, who do redeploy into the corner. 1 Annihilator dead. And, yep, so they do get killed. And the Kronspine fails its charge, though. So, going into the last round, I am in the lead. So, I've got 17 points. my opponent has got 14. So if I score 2 points, the worst case scenario is that it's a draw and I still finish second, which is fine. If I do not score 2 points, if I only score 1, I can potentially lose the game and plummet down the table. So most important thing is to not lose, because I would rather take second than maybe 4th or 5th, and thus guaranteed no trophy. My chance to win the tournament is if the vanquishers do not die. If they stay alive, I win the tournament, pretty much. Because that's my grand strategy, which is going to be enough to win. So I currently hold this objective, not this one. So the Lord Relictor has a choice. Do I teleport onto this objective, score a point, which would be 2 points for the round, and put me on 19, which means the worst case scenario is a draw? Or do I gamble and risk losing my position in the table, plummeting down the table, by losing the game, by teleporting the Lord Relictor over here? And yeah, because this is my turn 4. So teleport him here, and then if I get the double, teleport the vanquishers just somewhere totally safe, like all the way over here. Because those guys, even if they rally a few, they're not going to kill all the vanquishers in one go. I could even put them out of sight behind this building, and the Kronspine might be able to move to here and then not make a ridiculous charge, because I could put them like right down there. Or even here. So yeah, that would be, if I get the double turn and succeed with my rerollable 3-up teleport, that would just be automatically win the tournament. Because I would have an unassailable lead of 22 points, not 22 because I'm giving up this. So I'd be on 20 points. Because 21, in fact, I think it would be. Because, let's see, because I'm on 15 at the end of that round. I got 2 in round 4. Yeah, so if I hadn't put the Knight Relictor here, then I would have got 1 less point, which would have put me on only 16. No. Yeah, 16 plus at the end of this round, with grand strategy potentially going on here. So if I'd gone first in round 5, then teleport them away, and get 1 point for holding this objective still, which puts me up to, because I can't get a battle tactic, so I'd get 1 for that, and then I suppose I could even teleport them onto this objective to score another one, but that's at risk of the Kronspine being in range to charge them then. So that would put me on 20 points, which is an unassailable lead, because if they don't die, my opponent, the maximum he can get to in the last turn is 19. So I choose not to take the gamble, because if I did gamble, then I might plummet down the table, because if I don't win the priority, then the Kronspine just charges them and kills them, and I lose the game. Because these guys can make an auto run and touch this objective or this one. So that's going to be enough to give him a 5-point turn, which would make it 2019. So I decide I'm going to try and just score the points, and worst case scenario, make it a draw. So, do I win the priority? Because if I win the priority, I'm going to be feeling pretty bad about not taking this risk, because that's just almost an auto win the tournament. And I do win the priority, obviously. So I'm only going to score 2 points again. So if I'd decided to take the risk, I did win the priority, I could have teleported them to safety and just won the tournament. But obviously, on average, you're not going to win the priority having gone into the last turn second. So yeah, on average, you lose the priority in that situation. So I didn't think it was worth the risk to plummet down the table on a less than 50-50 chance. So I just accepted possible second place. So the Lord Relictor. So one way I could still win is teleporting him, charging them. He would then be worth 3 on an objective. So if I could kill a few of them, maybe take it off them, and that would also stop them probably reaching one of these 2 objectives as well at the end, if he doesn't die. So that would win me the tournament as well. But he did not make his 9-inch charge, sadly. Wow. So, yeah, 2 points, so up to 19. So my opponent needs to chase the vanquishers, who are hiding down here now, successfully charge them with the Kronspine when they're going to redeploy, successfully kill them all, well, successfully roar so they can't all out defense, which is going to make them very squishy, and then kill them all successfully. So do 10 wounds to then tie the game. So let's see. Kronspine is gone in. He does make the charge. And he does kill them all. So a 5-point turn for my opponent because these guys spread out and take this objective. They shoot the Relictor just for the lols because it doesn't affect the game at this point anyway. And we have a draw. 19 points each. No grand strategies because the Vanquishers died. And yeah, I'm just going to finish second in the table because my opponent had bigger wins than I did. So we both had 2 wins and a draw, which is really good. So yeah, just second place. Gonna have to deal with it. Now obviously, if I'd psychically known I was going to win turn 5 priority, Relictor teleports he teleports there at the end of round 4, then round 5, teleport the Vanquishers away to safety, and I just win the tournament. But I didn't want to gamble on less than 50-50 odds and then end up finishing 4th. So I'm quite happy with second place there. And that's the first time in a singles Age of Sigmar event that I have finished in the top 3, which I'm very happy with. And the second top 3 finish overall, so if you include doubles, then I did finish first at the Spiteful 16, which was great, that mixed doubles event. So second top 3 finish in Age of Sigmar, first in a singles event, and I think this list is actually really good. The Lord Celestant pulled his weight. He's not the optimum choice, obviously. Would it be better off with a Chariot instead? I wanted to go for a Dracoth themed list, so I've got 7 Dracoths in there with the Lord Celestant. So I think it was a nice theme, the Dracoths, and he did alright actually. So I think he does need to come down in points a bit. Most of the Stormcast heroes probably should have a few points knocked off. With a Chariot, would have been able to do much better with this list. The battle regiment didn't really help me out too much, because I was against low drops anyway. So it didn't let me go first or get the choice of going first or second. So I could have swapped out the Lord Celestant for a Chariot, which would have been interesting. It's obviously a bit more survivable than his. But on the other hand, because it's not hero, you lose some of the survivability in healing and finest hour and that kind of thing. But Chariot, just nice for doing those impact hits and then being -1 for you to hit it back on the turn it charged. So could have maybe been a better option, but I wanted to go for the Dracoth theme. And this was a nice little fun event. And 3 fun games. So obviously this one very close with I think it was, yeah, 19-19 there. And razor thin away from just winning the tournament, which is pretty good considering this was kind of a short notice event that I signed up for because I booked the day off work to prepare for Clash of Kings, and instead I decided, yeah, there's a tournament on, I'll just go to that instead. So just have 3 non-stop gaming days, including Clash of Kings. So tomorrow and Sunday is Clash of Kings, 150 plus Kings of War players in the middle of Nottingham. I'm taking my Abyssal Dwarves and 6 games, I think, of Kings of War goodness. So very much looking forward to that, and we'll see how I can do, because I really need to get a decent finish with the Abyssal Dwarves to bump myself up in the rankings for the best Abyssal Dwarf player to try and qualify for the Masters. So if I can get any kind of good finish, like top 20 would be really good with that many players, then that should give me a good, nice score there for the Masters rankings for Kings of War. So you can look forward to seeing the report of those games either on Sunday or possibly Monday, maybe Sunday. So keep your eye out for that. Also, back to Age of Sigmar talk. The Andy and Rem show is coming back soon. Mr. Remington is currently, he has informed me, he's painting up his Cities of Sigmar, new stuff that he's just acquired. He hasn't decided what scheme to paint them in actually yet. He's deciding whether to make them match all his old Cities of Sigmar units or to try something new. So he's pondering on that. So you can look forward to seeing the Andy and Rem show pretty soon. Other than that, I think that is going to be it for this video. I've got to go to sleep soon and then prepare for Clash of Kings tomorrow. Up bright and early again for even more non-stop red hot spicy gaming action. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And very happy with this result. Nice venue at the TSN as usual. Nice beverages. And Any last minute comments? Yeah, so don't forget to check out all the links in the description. There's various social media shenanigans in there. Got Twitter, except it's not called Twitter anymore, but I'm not acknowledging the name change. Got my Facebook group, there's a Discord server in there as well. And obviously, if you think that this channel is a beacon of light in these dark, foggy, turbulent times, then feel free to pledge all your money on Patreon. All your life savings should just about cover my tournament expenses, I think. I think that's fair. So with that, all that remains to be said at this point is... good night out there, whatever you are.